The Robert Wood Johnson Foundation recently found that Philadelphia rated the least healthy county in the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. In 2008, we found that a significant number of Philadelphians face hunger, yet at the same time, 64% of our adults are overweight or obese, 57% of our school-age children. It's one of the reasons why I've put forward an initiative to have a sugar-sweetened beverage tax in Philadelphia to deal with issues of obesity. I know it's a larger issue in New York State, and I don't wish to enter into New York's political battles. Violence is still too frequent. The choice in terms of people resolving their disputes in the city. We have a number of challenges, and we're realistic about facing them. And I'll talk about some of the things that we've done in a second. Philadelphia, though, has always had a great homeownership tradition. We've had one of the highest homeownership rates of any major city in the United States for a long, long period of time. Approximately 60% homeownership rate, and for senior citizens, it's even higher. 40% of our homeowners, though, have mortgages that cause them to spend more than 30% of their income on housing. And given that, and also our poverty rate in Philadelphia, it's not a surprise that we've had our challenges with mortgage foreclosure. Now, many other cities across the country have been challenged in that way, and we've had ours as well. We've fared better, though, than many other cities because we've had a long history and tradition of using our CDBG funds for housing counseling services in Philadelphia, and have established numerous housing counseling organizations that have operated for decades. When I came into office 27 months ago, we looked at all that we do and how we do it, and evaluated a wide variety of services and programs. We looked at our assets and our strengths, and also some of our challenges. Philadelphia, when I came into office 27 months ago, had a thriving economy. Our real estate market had not burst. We did not go wild on the real estate side, but we've had a 10-year tax abatement in effect, 10-year tax abatement for real estate taxes since the late 90s. The city had, a couple years before I came in office, $300 million that they used for neighborhood revitalization, and the economy in the years prior to my coming into office was still moving along. Center City has seen a dramatic increase in population, both empty nesters moving into Center City and folks from the suburbs coming back to the city, many, of course, taking advantage of that 10-year tax abatement. I set a course for the city that we would be a safer, smarter, and more sustainable city by dealing with those assets and challenges that face us. This is, in fact, as the President has articulated, the worst economic recession in the last 75 years, or literally since the Great Depression. With all of that in mind, and utilizing actually some of the strategies that you've so well done here in New York City, in the last 2 years, homicides are down 23% in Philadelphia, and violent crime is down by double digits. And we will continue to fight crime aggressively in our city. In the last 2 years, we've seen a 3 percentage point increase in high school graduation and college degree attainment. Test scores for Philadelphia schools have continued to go up, and now we've had 7 straight years of academic gains in our schools. One of the major issues in 2007 was corruption in the city government, and I won't go into a whole lot of details, but 40-some-odd folks in a period between 2003 and 2007 had either been indicted, arrested, or have gone to jail for a variety of issues involving our city government. It was a freewheeling, open, kind of pay-to-play environment where what you knew was more important than what you do. We rooted out much of that corruption. I brought in a chief integrity officer, changed out the inspector general, and I announced to the public that Monty Hall had left City Hall. We're now implementing a Greenworks Philadelphia strategy. It's our sustainability plan with 15 definable areas for growth in environmental gains. This is a plan that will put Philadelphia on a path to be the #1 green city in the United States of America. We must lower our carbon footprint, save money, and reduce our energy costs. Those dollars go right to the bottom line. The 2008 census estimate, the city for the first time in history challenged that estimate. We believed, as I heard earlier today about New York City, we believed that we actually had more people in the city than the census had originally estimated, and we were successful in that challenge, and so Philadelphia's population has now been demonstrated for the first time in 50 years to actually be growing, and a legitimate 1.5 million people in Philadelphia. We've reformed and revamped virtually every city department and agency in city government, and it's now much easier to do business with the city or get things done, and less time waiting and more services available online as opposed to people standing in line. I talked earlier about the issue of the challenges that face our city. In this economic climate, certainly partnerships are that much more increasingly necessary. City government cannot do the job by itself. And so all across our city and our region, working whether with the Philadelphia Housing Authority, the Pennsylvania Horticultural Society, CDCs and community partners and the corporate community, these partnerships are incredibly important. That's what led to the Philadelphia Mortgage Foreclosure Program, working with our courts, working with the banks, working with our housing agencies as well as our housing counseling agencies. We didn't use a piece of legislation. We literally used not only the bully pulpit, but the power of the sheriff and the courts and the mayor's office. We've saved 2,000 people's homes, and another 3,900 are in the process of going through conciliation conferences so that people don't get thrown out of their homes for no reason. We received recognition from the U.S. Conference of Mayors, and I was very proudly invited to New York when Mayor Bloomberg announced a similar program here, utilizing some of the same strategies and techniques that we have in Philadelphia. The mayors really do share information all across the United States and learning and gaining experience from each other. Let me talk a little bit about our Philadelphia Housing Authority and the great partnership that we've developed with the Executive Director, Carl Green, who I mentioned earlier, is here in two specific areas. One is when Carl came to Philadelphia about a decade ago and saw what was going on with public housing, and in some instances the blight that it was actually creating in communities, he immediately jumped into action, took down a number of high-rises and other properties. One was in a district that I used to serve as a member of City Council in the East Falls community, a somewhat upscale community that had public housing almost in the dead center. The towers came down, affordable housing was put up, and a part of the site was actually sold off to a developer who then put $500,000 plus homes on the same site as affordable homes, both rental and for sale homes. And some of those homes on the PHA side sold upwards of over $100,000, while the private sector homes on the same site literally were more than $500,000. We also looked out for our seniors and our vulnerable populations and made sure that there were affordable apartments for seniors and other special needs populations with retail on the ground floor to help support that particular development. It was a great idea and can be utilized all over the city. The second